The sun. This is pretty cool. It gave us a pretty hard smack yesterday. What are we talking about? A massive flare that shot out of the solar storm. It was the strongest solar flare this year.
Solar storms that only happen once a century are about to land on Earth. The surface of the sun is always boiling, forming energy bubbles. When the bubble bursts, those energy streams will sweep across the Earth. Before we start, please show your support by subscribing if you haven't already, and ring the bell so you don't miss any of our interesting videos in the future. Now, let's get started with today's content. Normally, solar energy streams either deviate from the Earth or are too weak to pass through the Earth's magnetic field, so they do not cause much damage. But every once in a while, the sun creates a storm so powerful that it can tear apart this magnetic shield. And when a solar storm makes landfall, it will cause chaos in information technology systems, crippling economies, and endangering the safety and livelihoods of people worldwide. According to NASA. Fortunately, such energy storms are rare, but experts say that the sun will not stop working before reaching a new peak, and it is likely that an energy storm will land on Earth in the next few years. At that time, three phenomena of the sun, including solar flares, coronal holes, and coronal eruptions, can shoot high-speed particles, causing disturbances in the Earth's magnetic field and gradually peeling off the ionization layer that protects the Earth. Daniel Verscharen, Associate Professor of Space and Climate Physics at the University of London, said that geomagnetic storms at their peak could disrupt the power grid on Earth. The Carrington event of 1859 is considered the strongest solar storm ever recorded. At that time, telegraph operators were shocked by their own equipment, and fires broke out at telegraph stations as electricity generated by the storm flowed through the wires. Another notable storm occurred in 1989. Although this storm was weaker, it caused more chaos. At that time, we began to depend more on the global power grid and communications. The power surge caused a widespread power outage in Quebec, Canada, for 12 hours and knocked out the shortwave radio station. At that time, Canadians believed that it was the Soviet Union that was jamming radio signals, a misunderstanding that could have been dangerous during the Cold War. But we should not be lulled into a fragile sense of security that the consequences of solar storms are just that. Since the 1990s, our dependence on communications, satellites, power grids, and other critical infrastructure has increased exponentially. If a solar storm were to occur today, the world would likely see widespread power outages, satellites falling out of orbit, and critical communications networks being cut off, according to NASA. The sun's activities are becoming more active, and scientists are especially interested in the solar cycle. Accordingly, the sun may be more active than it was 2 decades ago. In addition, according to Professor Verscharen, the sun's magnetic field also points south. This means that the charged particles sent by the sun are more likely to carry a charge that opposes the Earth's magnetic field, which gives particles ejected from the sun more opportunities to overcome the Earth's defense barrier. Currently, although a solar storm has not occurred, strong solar flares have caused some damage. Billionaire Elon Musk's SpaceX also lost 40 Starlink satellites due to a solar storm that caused the Earth's atmosphere to expand, increasing drag on the satellites and causing them to burn up before they were used. Professor Verscharen said that the solar cycle is expected to peak around 2025. But it does not mean that solar storms will occur at that time. It could be later. Until then, high-latitude countries such as the US, Canada, Sweden, and the UK should be especially vigilant. The professor commented that the higher the latitude, the more susceptible it is to solar phenomena. Still, there are ways to limit the consequences of the worst storms. With advance warning, operators can take measures to protect infrastructure from the worst effects of solar storms. They can strategically turn off power grids, reroute aircraft, or move satellites. scientists are racing to understand what makes solar activity stronger and improve warning systems. The European Space Agency is also looking to launch the Vigil satellite, which is expected to pass behind the Sun to detect potentially dangerous sunspots and coronal holes days before they appear in view. Earth. And that's the end of today's episode.